So the scheme intends to create capacity among the principal beneficiaries and their beneficiaries in entrepreneurship and also in helping alleviate the vulnerable. The empowerment scheme also seeks to do two things. That is, basically to disseminate information about COVID, okay, to disseminate information about economic measures that the government has put in place to address the effects of, or to mitigate the effects of COVID-19, and also to promote the national values and principles. Last but not the least, the ministry hopes to support and thus create some kind of stimulus and practical incentive for building resilience in various operational fronts in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. The rationale for the scheme, basically the church, religious organizations, and faith-based organizations were identified as strategic partners of the government in an attempt to benefit the people of Zambia because of their extensive network across the country and a track record of implementing successfully sustainable livelihood projects. It is therefore envisaged that the implementing of the empowerment scheme in this manner by the government will help communities, the church, religious organizations, and faith-based organizations become resilient themselves and self-sustaining again for the benefit of all. The objectives of the scheme are phased in two levels. The general objective is to provide empowerment funds to the church, religious organizations, and faith-based organizations in order to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 pandemic and to promote resilience and self-sustainability. That is the general objective. For the specific objectives, we have 4, and they are listed as follows. To provide grants to the principal recipients in order to administer revolving funds for the benefit of their members. B, to provide relief funds to the church, religious organizations, faith-based organizations with existing social or economic programs which have been negatively affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. C, to promote mindset change among the church, religious organizations, faith-based organizations in order to uphold the national values. And D, to enhance collaboration between the church and the church, between the state, the church, religious organizations, and faith-based organizations in order to better implement socio-economic programs and interventions. So what will the scheme cover? Basically, the scheme has 3 main themes. And for simplicity, I've broken it down into 2. So we have the economic empowerment programs and capacity building, for simplicity. So under economic empowerment programs, which is having the bigger bulk of the money, which is 74% of the scheme, we have 1, grants for revolving funds, which is attracting 60% of the scheme. And then we have the second, under economic empowerment programs, grants to organizations with existing social or economic programs that have been negatively affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. For emphasis, the first one enables the principal recipient to run revolving funds. The second one is a grant because their project, which has been existing, has been negatively affected. Then the second part of the empowerment scheme is capacity building, and basically this has 26%. 10% of this amount, okay, 10% out of the 26 is for sensitization to communities about the scheme and other programs, in entrepreneurship training. 6% is for orientation of the clergy, church, religious organization, and community leaders in project management. And the last 10% is for project management support. Later on, I will show you how these figures actually appear. So the projected budget for the scheme is as follows. In order to effectively implement the scheme, a budget of 50 billion kwacha has been developed. And this 50 million kwacha is I'll still explain how it so under economic empowerment, which is the top two, which is the 74%, we have 7 billion for the grants to the already existing projects which have been negatively affected by COVID-19. And then we have 30 million for the running of the revolving fund schemes. Then we have under sensitization programs and capacity building. We have 5 million, which represents 10% for dissemination of information on COVID-19, information on economic measures that the government is putting in place, dissemination of information on national values and principles. Then, under capacity building, in particular, we have 1 million for capacity building for the clergy on mindset change. Then we also have capacity building for community leaders on mindset change, 2 million. Then under project management funds, we have in total 5 million, as I had said, but specific for the project, this 5 million is actually 3 million for administrative costs to enable the management of the scheme to run. And then we have 2 million for the evaluation and the evaluators of the scheme. So altogether, that is how the 50 million is broken down. Next, we move on to the eligibility to access the scheme. Basically, if you're applying for a grant to run a revolving fund, these are the things that you will need to put in place. One, the organization that is applying for a grant should demonstrate interest and capacity to run a revolving fund scheme for members or affiliates. These may include and not limited to the following. These are the things that you need to do to demonstrate that you have the capacity. Basically, you have to have financial and administrative systems in place. Then you need to have staff with real-time skills. Then you need to have operational equipment in order for you to disperse the funds. Then the second thing you need to have in place is you must have reasonable representation, that is membership across the country, or have known traceable location. So we must be able to know where the organization that is applying is located. Then C, you must have churches or affiliates or members, a social charity, or a commercial project benefiting from the community, from the project. And then D, you must be able to complete application forms which should have accompanied the following. One, the constitution of your organization, so the constitution of your church, or organization, resolution of your church board or top management structure. Next, a proposed guideline for managing the revolving fund. Then you have to have proof of compliance to statutory obligations. Then you must have a tax clearance form. And then you must have, for those who are applying for the grant, in particular, if you are applying for the grant for the projects that have been negatively affected, you must have audited financial statement, a bank statement for the last 3 months, and certified copies of your national NRCs for the members of your top management or board. We move on to the scheme management. So the scheme itself will be run by certain individuals, and the committee that will be responsible for managing the scheme is called the Scheme Management Committee. They will be appointed by the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Guidance. The Permanent Secretary is a member and the chair of this committee, and he will be accompanied by all the directors in the Ministry of National Guidance and representatives from the following 4 organizations. A representative from the Ministry of Finance, a representative from the Ministry of Community Development and Social Services, a representative from the Citizens Economic Empowerment Commission, and a representative from the Office of the Registrar of Societies. The duties, or the main duties of the Scheme Management Committee as follows. Basically, they are there for policy direction and oversight of the scheme. They are there to approve applications recommended by the Technical Working Group. They are there for evaluating performance of the scheme, and they are there to implement capacity building programs in collaboration with the church and other stakeholders. And last but not the least, they are there to ensure sustainability of the scheme. The next layer underneath the Scheme Management Committee is the Technical Working Group. And this will be composed of the Director, Christian Affairs and Religion, who will be the chair of this committee. And he will be accompanied by an assistant director from the Christian Affairs Department, an assistant director from the National Guidance Department, the chief planner, the assistant director for human resource, the head procurement, the senior accountant, and representatives from the 3 organizations, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock, and a representative from the Citizens Economic Empowerment Commission, CEEC. The duties of this committee are basically as follows. They will review and appraise the applications that will be submitted. They will recommend successful applications. They will monitor and implement approved projects, and they will produce reports on monitored and evaluated projects. And last but not the least, they will serve as the secretariat of the scheme. The application procedures. The application procedures for this scheme are as follows. The application forms will be available free of charge, and you will be able to download them from our website, or you can access them from the Office of the District Commissioners, our provincial officers, and the ministry headquarters. So the forms are free of charge. Your completed application form should then be submitted in hard copy to any of those centers that we have highlighted. Application forms should be handwritten or typed. And then completed application forms should be accompanied by the following documentation: the constitution of your church or organization, bylaws of, in the case that you have incorporated a cooperative, you attach your bylaws, not a constitution. We'll need a resolution of your church board or your top management that you have decided to apply. We'll need a copy of a valid certificate of registration. We'll need your business plan in case of a cooperative. We'll need your tax clearance. We'll need, for existing projects, your financial statements, your audited financial statements, your bank statements for at least 3 months, certified copies of the members of your top management. Again, the emphasis is that only hard copy applications will be accepted. The grant application. So if you are applying for the grant, this is what you need to have in mind. The Church COVID-19 Empowerment Scheme is meant to support church charity and income-generating projects or programs to empower the clergy, women in ministry, and to be self-sustaining. The scheme will run as a grant to churches, so the ministry will grant the principal recipients, and then they will run a revolving fund. To enable the scheme to be viable and sustainable, there is a small interest that has been proposed of 10%, a simple interest. The ministry will call back grants to recipients who fail to utilize the grants as prescribed. In this regard, the successful applicants will be required to sign binding grant agreements before the grant can be given. Disbursement of the grants. The successful applicants will be required to sign a binding agreement before the disbursement of the grants, committing, among others, 1, to cooperation with the ministry in providing entrepreneurship training for loan recipients, maintaining clear documentation on the disbursement of the grants as revolving funds, cooperation with the ministry on monitoring and evaluation, and submit quarterly reports on the running of the revolving funds and performance of the grants. So the recipients should put in place these measures to successfully implement the project. Last but not the least, we have appeals. For those who will feel aggrieved, or maybe that we have not dealt with you according to how you would have loved to be treated, you have an appeal window of within 14 days. After 14 days of receiving a rejection letter, you can appeal to the Minister of National Guidance. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you so much. I think we can give him another recognition for the wonderful presentation. I'll request my gentleman to come and help me take the Honorable Minister behind, please. I'm sorry, I need to adjust for 9:50 tonight plenary. We will do the plenary after the official. I will invite others who are with the Minister in front, because we need to do the official launch now. Now we have one song. The presentation may sound technical, but be assured the teams that the ministers put in place, they will help to put everything to the presentation frame. Address the House.
Honorable Minister, it is once more my honor to call upon you to speak to the audience before you. And then after your remarks, we will once more request you to go and cut the ribbon down there, get a few brochures for these guidelines and share with your people. If you still have time, you will sit to listen to the plenary. People might have questions, but we realize that sooner than later you will be requested or required to attend Parliament. So we'll leave it up to you to decide, Honorable Minister, whether to be with us or to go and prepare for other national duties. For now, allow me now to call upon you to address your people. Honorable Minister.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You don't seem to be happy, but I know that when you are wearing a mask, it's difficult to see the smile. But I believe this is the day that the Lord has made. It is a wonderful day. We have been waiting for this day. So we are very, very glad, and we are very grateful to God, and we give honor to God Almighty for what is happening today. the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of National Guidance and Religious Affairs, members of the Scheme Management Committee, executive directors of church mother bodies and other faith umbrella bodies, bishops and the clergy present, representatives of the church, religious organizations and faith-based organizations, provincial, national guidance and religious affairs officers present. I forgot to acknowledge our directors, all the directors present from the Ministry of National Guidance and Religious Affairs, members of the press, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am indeed delighted to be here today to launch the long-awaited empowerment scheme for churches, religious and faith-based organizations, which is meant to cushion them against COVID-19 pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, as you may recall, the genesis of this empowerment fund is a meeting of the President, His Excellency President Edgar Chagorungu, with the clergy in Ndola on the 17th of September last year. The President heard the plea of the clergy and directed the ministry to come up with modalities of an empowerment fund in line with other empowerment funds established for other sectors. Today is a testimony of the Patriotic Front government's commitment to uplifting the welfare of the people of Zambia. The President's words of 17th September were not an empty promise. As you can see, they are being fulfilled today. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know that the primary goal of the church, religious and faith-based organizations is to take care of the spiritual needs of the people, but also the physical needs of the people they lead and the people that are under their care. Today, we are launching this empowerment scheme because one, the church, religious and faith-based organizations have for a long time supplemented government's efforts in providing social services and ventured into economic activities aimed at eradicating poverty in communities. Two, the church, religious and faith-based organizations are better placed to undertake outreach programs because of structures rooted in communities. Three, the COVID-19 pandemic has not spared the church, religious organizations and faith-based organizations. Therefore, it is only prudent that they are also empowered to keep them running. Ladies and gentlemen, as you have already heard, the government taking into account the need to empower the church, religious and faith-based organizations, has set aside 50 million kwacha for the program. This money will serve two purposes. First, to empower the church, religious and faith-based organizations to establish revolving funds for their members. Secondly, a small component will go towards support of existing charity programs which have been severely affected by the pandemic. You may wish to note that the scheme has incorporated capacity building initiatives to ensure that the revolving fund succeeds. The success of this scheme will serve as a model for other empowerment initiatives in the future. Therefore, this scheme brings with it demand for responsibility on the part of those that are going to benefit from the scheme. It is incumbent upon the beneficiaries at all levels to ensure success of the scheme. Please ensure that the revolving funds you are going to establish are sustainable and accrue benefits for the intended target groups. Ladies and gentlemen, government is aware that the church is present in remote parts of the country and wishes to see to it that this scheme is accessible by your members in those remote areas. The church, religious and faith-based organizations have demonstrated high levels of patriotism, integrity, good governance, and non-discrimination in the manner you have delivered your services to communities. It is expected that the same will be applied to this initiative. Government is confident that you, the church, religious and faith-based organizations, are capable of making positive contribution to the country's socio-economic development. This is why the Patriotic Front government has continued implementing various empowerment programs aimed at improving the people's livelihoods. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to reiterate that the empowerment scheme has incorporated a capacity building program because we want to work with the church, religious and faith-based organizations to bring about mindset change of the people. The emphasis is on the values of hard work, honesty, and patriotism. In this regard, recipients of these grants will be expected to cooperate with the Ministry of National Guidance and Religious Affairs in the implementation of mindset change programs for various groups. I want to see to it that there is equal participation from all parts of the country. I'm sure you have heard when our representatives from the provinces were just announcing where they've come from. All the provinces have been represented, and they are here to ensure that they understand well the program and they take this program to the provinces. I urge all those that are going to be involved in the administration of this scheme to uphold integrity and ensure fairness. Allow me to take this opportunity and digress and talk about the importance of peace in the country as we head towards the August 12th general election. This call is for all our leaders of the church, religious and faith-based organizations to desist from participating in active politics. Your call is to counsel politicians, provide avenues for peace and love in the nation. Your institutions should be institutions of refuge where people run to in times of need. They can come from the ruling party or the opposition party. You are looking after people of various political interests, and it is within their rights to do so. I therefore appeal to you, our spiritual leaders, to unite the nation. Continue praying for the government and the opposition so that we can have credible election free of political violence. I appeal to you, please preach the One Zambia, One Nation motto our founding fathers anchored this nation on. Preach against hate speech and tribalism. They have no place in our Christian nation. Zambians have coexisted since its inception. People have married and formed families across tribes. Hence, there is no need to fight or pass derogative remarks against any tribe. We are one people. Let us continue to love our nation, Zambia. Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, let me thank you all for having taken your time to come and be part of this memorable occasion. As we access this money, let us demonstrate high levels of integrity, accountability, and trust. Your government, the Patriotic Front government, has demonstrated the commitment to alleviate the effects of the pandemic across sectors. The Patriotic Front government remains ready to work with you for the betterment of our country in the midst of the pandemic and beyond. Now, I'm sure now we go down so that we can officially launch this empowerment fund. I would invite some bishops around to come, so please, the bishops come.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Just like this time, if they know what to do, what to do, space as well. Let's do a job. I don't mind it. What's the problem?
Hallelujah. We give you praise. Hallelujah. Prophetess, we are standing so on fire. Come here. Hallelujah. So, So the Ministry of National Guidance and Religious Affairs launch of the Church, Religious and Faith-Based Organizations Empowerment Scheme in the name of in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you so much. What a splendid time of the sector with our key stakeholders engaged in our quest to deliver an inclusive service to the people of Zambia. I think we can give the Minister another Honorable Minister, in your eloquence, we have picked a message from your speech, reminding the church of their core values, how much they need to be closer to the people, and what we are delivering. The government is saying, while we realize the challenges you have, that you're not spared in this period of challenging season, we need us to give you this support. The presentation was made. I know that you picked a number of things that you would love to raise issues on. Time for prayer. The guide is, if your concern is raised, answer the purpose to be heard. And then I know that we need to remain committed to the restricted time we're supposed to be here. So not everyone who has what to speak will be given opportunity. It may not by default, but I'm sure we'll speak by default. The minister has, of course, wished to listen. So I'll be equally, with an equity level approach, gender sensitive. Anything that you want to, from the presentation, the speech, from the PS, so you are free to make yourself me, I'm a teacher. When you raise the hand like this, it's like you're telling me I'm sure. Okay. It's there. That side. Sorry, sir. So I can quote it.
Thank you very much for a wonderful speech by the minister. Mine, I just want to say to the gentleman who's doing the presentation, if it's possible, he can give us the slides which was presenting on, so that we can.
That one I can answer immediately. The emails we've gotten from you, from outside, we shall email it immediately. Yes, that one we shall share. The information was, so you can just mention the name of the organization you raised the point.
Thank you. Honorable Minister, I am Bishop Brian Wale from the Pentecostal Assemblies of God, Zambia. I rise to just seek clarification in terms of the time frame in which the redeeming of specified grants is going to be done. I do observe also that while, first of all, I should have expressed gratitude in the first instance to the government for being so proactive in this particular regard. It is much appreciated, and I would like to express this gratitude from my fellowship. I do observe that the amount that has been announced there is quite something. But again, if you look at the numbers, it is also bringing about specific modalities that have to be put in place in order for the cake to be shared equitably. The time frame of fact that comes into play in this particular regard, and I seek clarification on that one.
Yes, I'll be free. Then I advance for the results. So this is one. The first one was answered immediately.
Good morning, Honorable. Good morning, my fellow participants once again. Firstly, I join the minister in thanking the government for demonstrating the intention, the will to work with the community to help in this time of COVID when we haven't been spared in terms of economically. My concern regards monies that we might be accessing. There's, I think, something that has been mentioned regarding the interest that I don't know, I didn't get it correctly. I need to be given a clarity on that, because some of our organizations, they don't deal in interest money. So I do not know whether the amount that we will access will have to pay something as part of interest. Then a number of organizations might not be part of that. Thank you.
Thank you for the provision of this finance to the church, because the church has been highly affected. Because of COVID, attendances in the churches have gone down. And when the attendance is down, the finance is down. So a lot of churches, we are struggling to pay bills, to run the place. It's not a small job. So we really appreciate this token of love from the President, to allow churches also to pick up. But I just had a question on the things that we need to submit to get the grant. One of them is audited finances. That is a very delicate thing. Not that we don't all keep our records of finances as churches, but to get audited accounts, it needs a qualified accountant, and they need to be paid a lot of money to do the auditing and bring a report. So I feel that statement, audited account, may be difficult for a lot of churches. I don't know, I'm not speaking for everybody, but I feel we have done audited accounts before as a church. We paid a lot of money to the accounts to do them. As a result, in a few years, we have not done audited accounts. So I'm saying, I don't know how that will be considered for those that cannot manage to do audited accounts. Thank you.
There are three now, please.
Thank you so much. I will leave the permanent secretary to answer difficult questions. But I can start with this. It's true that we really have to thank the President for his care. He has a lot of empathy. This is what we need in our leaders, to have that empathy. And if you have been following what he has been saying, he's very much concerned about the church and would like to see the church empowered. After all, Jesus Christ is coming to a glorious church. This is a Christian nation. My prayer is that the church can understand the times and seasons that we are in and take their place, their position, even in this nation. Time frame, it is now. We have opened the doors. So the earlier the better. So we have started. In fact, there are some people who have already started submitting applications. In terms of the amount, there is a saying in Bemba, this is a starting point. We are starting from somewhere, small steps. And if we can manage this thing well, we'll see more money coming in. That's why we are very grateful to God that as a church, we have a ministry, our own ministry. So this is a starting point. Let us see how we utilize this money and the impact that is going to make. The small interest, if you listen carefully, there are various levels of recipients. We are looking at the church mother bodies who have members. You see, the idea is to ensure that this funding is accessed, there is accessibility. So we are going to work with the church mother bodies who have members. So the church mother bodies are supposed to maintain now a revolving fund so that it can be accessed. You know, you access, you use it, you take it back with a small interest. Why a small interest? Because the funds, the capital, can be eroded. So to keep that revolving fund going, you need to put a little bit of interest so that at least we keep the money going. The idea is to empower. So when we give the church mother body, for instance, CCZ, they should ensure that their members, they know their members. Some of their members are in rural, and they know what is happening to their members. So they will give priority to those members who are in great need within that church mother body. We have also network, like PLG. You are everywhere. Yeah. And you know among yourselves, those that are in need. So we give you some money to keep as a revolving fund so that you can continue helping your members. But we also have ministries that are being run by women. Those are the ones that are now doing charitable work in the communities. They are doing something. Let us see how we can help them. In fact, when you are talking about audited financial statements, those faith-based, small but impactful in the community, they may not have that, but they may, my ministry may ask that organization is backed by somebody who is able. It can be a big church that is backing a faith-based organization, or it can be a church mother body, but this one is a faith-based, but they have connection. You are a member of EFZ, you are a faith-based organization, you may not have all this, whatever, and if there's demonstration that you are doing something in the community, you are helping in the community, you know, we have to see how we can help and strengthen you. So I think I will answer it.
Just to add on what the minister has just said, the ministry is ready. We have application forms there. If you are able to fill in today and give us, we'll see and look at the application form. Audited these guidelines. Actually, the whole idea is not to put up mountains so that people fail to get the money. No, that's not the idea. We are actually still receiving submissions from other line ministries. So meaning that where we think our membership, you are our membership, where we think some of the guidelines are serving as obstacles, we will still get back. No, this is government money. We will consult Minister of Finance, we will consult Minister of Justice, and indicate to say, though the guidelines are A, B, C, D, we have found this guideline to be a bit tricky for our members. But the whole idea is that the church should not treat this money as a fair bomber. There must be that accountability, revolving fund, not revolving back to the Ministry of National Guidance and Religious Affairs. No, revolving within the church. So the whole idea is to empower the church. The whole idea is to reduce poverty levels in our country. Thank you.
I'll get 4. 2 from the...
Thank you very much. I noticed that I was asking time frame in terms of redeeming the grants. It's 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years.
Sorry. And if you will be speaking, I will not give you. Thank you very much. Honorable Minister Akias, my question is on the point of concern, because as you know, most of us faith-based organizations, our mentality to receiving finances may not foster sustainability and the achievement of the desired objectives. For example, and if we're being real and realistic, if such money is coming to a ministry or an organization, oftentimes based on hierarchy and mindset, they're often personalized and they may not eventually get to the desired people. For example, when you see the quote, it is designed to reach the members. How do we prevent it staying at the top and not cascading down? How do we ensure that these funds, for example, in the Bible, in Matthew 25, you see where he gave them talents according to their abilities. And they went and they brought back, like we talked about the revolving funds. Are you going to help us, the faith-based organizations, to be successful? Are you going to keep dropping the bar for us? In business, they use this to form the Grameen Bank, things like that, and they prosper. For us, are you going to set up? We had it, but how are you going to enforce it? That before the money goes into the hand, we are compliant with mindset. Otherwise, we'll have to do it again. And that's my concern. I'm sorry if I'm sharing it in this, but I feel that as participants, it should start from here. Thank you. Also, how do we use it to push the national values and principles? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Yes, and the gathering. My name is Reverend Gibson Bajola Miranda, Vice Chairperson, Advocates of Zambia as a Christian Nation. My question and concern is on the callback of the grant. What environment or conditions will necessitate the calling back of the grant? Thank you.
I'm looking at eligibility to access the scheme, and one of the requirements is financial and administrative systems, staff with real-time skill sets, and operational equipment. So I would like clarification on the operational equipment. And also, there's proof of compliance to statutory obligations. There's also tax clearance form, which is from ZRA. So this proof of compliance to statutory obligations, I'll need clarification. Again, there are small churches or maybe small organizations that are not members of EFZ or CCZ. How are we going to treat those? Thank you.
Thank you so much for those questions. I like the first question on mindset change, compliance, especially the faith-based organizations. I'm sure you heard in my speech, firstly, as government, we would like to appreciate the work of the church, and the church is at different levels, and even in religious organizations, faith-based organizations, for the work that you do among the people, how you are complementing the effort of government to provide social services. So we come with trust, but at the same time, we have taken steps to ensure that we keep good governance as government. You expect your government to be accountable. The funds that we are using, these are resources from taxpayers. And that's why we had to involve other government ministries to ensure that we do the right thing as a ministry. As the Ministry of National Guidance, we have to be an example of good governance. So we have worked with the Ministry of Justice. They've looked at all the documents. We have worked with the Ministry of Finance for them to satisfy themselves that we are not just throwing away money. So I said in my speech that part of the funding, a little funding will go towards capacity building. Before we give you the money, we shall make sure that we sit down. People come and visit you to see what is it that is on the ground. What are you doing? We want to build the capacities of the recipients. We want to also use the opportunity for mindset change, the way we look at things. I talked about accountability, about hard work, about really making an impact at the grassroots to help those who are helpless. And we have taken time because we needed to ensure that we have proper monitoring systems in place. At the same time, we want to promote national values and principles. We want to hear the church talking about these national values and principles. Let people learn about this. The members of our church, let us teach them to be honest. Let us teach them to work hard. Let us teach them to love their nation. Let us teach them, to ensure family values are upheld. So this is really an opportunity to build capacities. What will necessitate calling back the grant? When there's abuse, we'll call it back. And this more applies to, the revolving funds, the big, those that are now giving others. If we come and we find that money has not gone to those that need the money, then we'll call it back, and I can tell you we have to be accountable. We have a robust monitoring system, and that's why I come to the question of operational equipment. We are addressing more to those that are managing revolving funds, because we cannot give you a revolving fund when you don't have an accounting system, when you don't have, the necessary equipment. How are you going to monitor? How are you going to keep track of the monies that you are giving out? So there has to be integrity. We are national guidance, so we have to be a bit more careful. But at the same time, as PS said, we don't want to build mountains so that we can't access. No. In fact, I told him, the PS and the directors, we need to move quickly. This is not too much money, but people are crying out there. Let us not make it so difficult. No. We just make sure that we follow the guidelines, but let's move quickly. So, compliance to statutory obligations, because if you are a church mother body, or you are a network of churches, we expect you to meet all these things we are talking about. The tax obligations, statutory obligations, operational equipment, then we can trust you and say, okay, you can help now others small. Yeah. So I mentioned that there's different levels. There are those faith-based, they are just at the community, but they are doing the work. They are looking after orphans, they are looking after children. They are, empowering other women. We look at that. What was the last one? Those that are not affiliated. We encourage churches to affiliate. I think it's just good order. You can imagine the national guidance working with individual churches all over. It becomes difficult, but now since we have a ministry, it is easier when we are working with the church mother bodies. But they can apply as an individual church. The application will be looked at. I thank you.
Honorable Minister, I know our people would want to ask for further clarification, but we want to assure them as a ministry that there is a program where we still need to interact in smaller groups, where we take people through even in the process of applying. And as the Honorable Minister said, we can only give out this money when we are sure to say the people have understood why we are giving out this money. It is not money to buy suits, for example, myself, so that when I stand to preach in the pulpit, people say, yes, God has blessed him. No. But it's money to help other people. The issues of compliance. Surely, if you are a church, you must be registered. There are no two ways about it. And in terms of paying of tax, like cooperatives, some churches actually have formed up cooperatives. and we will consider, as long as they have the documents that support, that indicate that these people actually have formed a cooperative and it is registered. We don't want a cooperative formed within, like now that people have heard, you form a cooperative today, then the next week you apply, will be hesitant to look at that. We want people that actually will help others. Government wants to give out this money so that you also help others. Now, in terms of time frame, Chief Planner, where are you? What is the time frame for this 10% in terms of revolving fund? Then, as for the ceremony, we'll take it up.
The time frames for the paying back, when you have received the empowerment funds as the principal recipients, and then you roll out the revolving fund to your beneficiaries within your institutions, will be outlined in the agreement that you will sign between yourselves and the ministry. There are timelines which will be specified, but principally, the management of that revolving fund will be within scope. However, there are suggested timelines so that it benefits as many of your beneficiaries as possible. So there are certain amounts that are tied to a certain time frame. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. We'll keep on interacting, more especially even after the meeting. The directors are introducing themselves that are critical. We have Director of Christian Affairs, Director of Planning, also the senior officers in the process. So you are very free that we need to give you more information regarding this, more especially that you are within the ministry before you leave. And also from today going forward, we'll continue with our open door policy for interaction so that we do the correct thing. Allow me, yes, to proceed. Next activity was when I was getting the last question I've been seeking. Bishop, we have heard that we are heading towards prayer, and the number of activities set off for Zambia to set ourselves on that. Please, given a chance to speak to you.
Honorable Minister, the PS, the Director of Programs, thank you for the opportunity. We are a Christian nation, of course, tolerant to other religions, which has always been demonstrated. But I stand here to announce that we can never succeed in a nation we do not love. Because where your love goes, your best shall go. Where your best goes, success is a must. We love Zambia. We have no other nation to run to in case of any other crisis or whatever it may be. And we just want to be proactive. We are in an election year, and we trust in God that we ought to pray so that peace prevails, and also trust in the Lord that this COVID era must pass quickly so that we're able to run properly as a people. And so through the work of the ministers' fellowships, and of course the blessing of government through the Ministry of National Guidance and Religious Affairs. We're going to have a prayer rally. It's prayer and fasting. That's for 3 days. That's from the 4th, the 5th to the 6th of March. We'll be praying just for an hour early in the morning from 05 hours to 06 hours. The uniqueness with these prayers is that we'll be praying from different chosen streets around the nation of Zambia, that the pastors in the different communities are going to choose, so that for an hour we should be able to pray for peace to prevail before elections, during elections, and after elections, and also getting to pray against this COVID problem that has actually ravaged the nations. More details will continue to be given through different media platforms, so that people can know exactly where will they be gathering, in which street as a community. In Lusaka, one of the key streets where prayer will be done will be actually Cairo Road. Yeah, and then from there, it will also be beamed live online for people to be able to follow wherever they will be, so that it can be the whole nation praying. We know it is in a rainy season. We've also made sure that whichever street that has been chosen for prayer, there's also a church nearby. Just in case of rain, people will still be able to gather in a particular church building, so that prayer is effectively done. COVID restrictions and regulations, healthy regulations, shall be followed to the very detail. We'll encourage people that when it's that hour of prayer, people also come out from their homes and pray from where they are, because we make use of megaphones as well around the communities. This year, it's a very strategical year for Zambia. We are clocking 30 years as a Christian nation. Zambia has matured to put on priestly garments now and become a beacon of light to many, many nations. And so no wonder we want to make sure that even in these elections, we must be able to demonstrate maturity as a nation, so that there's proper transitions without any problem at all, and we ought to pray if this is to become a reality. So we look forward to seeing every one of us embracing this for national cause. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Bishop. We've now come to the end of our Open Interface Interactive meeting that has been superintended by our guest of honor, the Minister of National Guidance and Religious Affairs, Madam Godfridah. Madam Minister, I want to say thank you so much for the leadership demonstrated with the management team, that this meeting, which was seen from the time the President talked about it, it was perfect, but for now we are witnessing the standard outcome in this manner. I think the Minister deserves a clap.